Coming to you somewhat live from a desk somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. Let's hang out. Welcome. Whoever you are, wherever you're listening to it from, thank you guys for checking it out and giving it a chance. This is the Let's Hang Out podcast, the first episode, the pilot episode. Not really anything fancy to talk about today, because it is the first one, and it's kind of working the kinks out. Figuring out what does work, doesn't work, kind of setting the expectation for everybody who's going to be coming into this and listening in. A lot of people will probably pick it up later on down the line and won't get to hear all this, but if you're here from the beginning, please know this journey is something that I've been wanting to do for quite a while, and I'll get to that in just a little bit and explain a little bit about that. To start things off, I figure an introduction is probably the best place. So, first and foremost, if you don't know me from anywhere else online, my name is William. I go by VW Linden on Twitter, W Linden on Twitch, where I do most of my streaming for charity fundraising and such. Basically those two tags anywhere online you can find me. I know, nothing original, no crazy names, no Call of Duty 360 no-scope shooter name. I wanted to be easily found if things ever took off in my life, so that way people knew who I was, and it was authentically me. So, no fun, crazy names. But again, if you know me from elsewhere, if you know me personally from growing up together, family, friends, acquaintances, co-workers, things like that, you guys already know quite a bit about me, so welcome to the show for the first time, guys. Thank you for joining me. If you are new and we've never met, we've never talked, just a little bit about me. I have been doing charity streaming, video game streaming for about a decade total. Kind of a mix of things. Variety streamer, so I do video games, hobbies, art, things like that. Everything from model building to resin artwork to painting, everything from Destiny to Pokemon, tabletop cart, the whole thing. Like, if it's a game, I love doing it. The audio side of things, the podcasting side of things, I actually used to have a wrestling podcast with my best friend, and we did that for, I think I figured it out to be just over 2 years, almost 3 years. And we stopped that about 5 years ago, which is crazy for me to process the numbers and think of that. It's closer to 4 than 5. It's just the time frame of things and the whole 2023 versus when we stopped, yada yada. It's wild to think about, man. It's one of those projects that I really enjoyed doing. It was something I got to do with my best friend. We got to talk about something we both enjoyed at the time. We had a pretty steady following. We had regular listeners, all kinds of stuff. Like, the dream was happening, man. There were some cool things happening with that podcast, and it really, really resonated with one of my dreams I had from when I was a kid. And again, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about why podcasting is happening, why I'm doing this. But, it's one of those things. Like, I really enjoy doing this, and it's something that I'll explain more. Let's see, what else about me do you guys need to know? I am a dad of three awesome kids, all very, very different, and just very proud of everything they're doing. I have been married for 15 years. We just celebrated our 15th anniversary this past weekend, just before this episode recorded. My wife is a huge, huge reason why I'm able to do this, and one of the biggest supporters I have for these projects. Because she understands, like, this is something I've wanted to do for a while, and she had her things, she's had her projects and goals that she's wanted to achieve, and we've always helped each other reach for those dreams. And, her work stuff is one of the biggest things that she's had going on. She wanted to get into the particular line of work she's in with healthcare. And we took a giant leap years ago, and I've been supporting her ever since, making sure that she's doing what she needs to do and reaching whatever goals she wants to put out there for herself, and she's doing the same with me. I've been a stay-at-home dad for quite a while. It's not bad. A lot of people sit there and will think about, oh my god, stay-at-home dad, he doesn't do anything, he sits on his butt. No, I'm very busy most of the time. If it's not things related with the kids and stuff going on, it's other projects going on with life and just keeping myself going. Things have finally slowed down enough and adjusted enough where I can start doing some of the things that I've really wanted to do as like personal goals, personal achievements. And this podcast is one of them. So I hope you guys stick around for the long haul. You guys are here for many, many episodes. Hopefully this thing takes off into something I really want it to be. And with that, let's introduce the actual podcast itself and kind of the goals of what the show is supposed to be. So it's called Let's Hang Out for a reason. It's a podcast, an idea that I've had to really just hang out with whoever's on the show and get to know them and let them talk and kind of just be themselves for a little bit. You know, we all have our busy days, we have our stuff going on, work, life, kids, adulting, all the stresses, all those things that we all have. And if I can invite you onto the show, if you want to be on the show and just take 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it takes for us to do a recording session and just chat and hang out and not stress about things, then the pod is doing exactly what it needs to do. That's the goal. That's the expectation for this. Something fun, something to disconnect from all the other stress in your life, and maybe relate to some of the topics going on, maybe to relate to some of the people on the show. The biggest thing is that this is going to be a multi-format podcast, so sometimes you'll get just an audio session, you'll get just the episode put on Spotify, Podbean, wherever it ends up. Sometimes you get the audio and the video will be hosted on my YouTube channel. We'll have a separate playlist just for the podcast episodes. Sometimes that'll be with a guest, sometimes it'll be without a guest, sometimes it's just me. You know, there's going to be times where I may not have people that want to do the episode or that have other things going on and we have to reschedule. The goal is consistency with the recordings and to make sure that I have episodes on a regular basis. One, so that way I can keep doing this and keep myself fine-tuned with editing episodes and keeping content rolling and so on. It's a practice for me to keep things moving, to keep things going where I want them to go. The other side of it is so that way when I do need to take some downtime, when I do need to step away and do personal things, it doesn't feel like abandoning the show. So whether or not we have a guest, I will try to have episodes out every other week. At this point, we're going to try to do bi-weekly. We'll adjust it as we go, and I'll let you guys know through the episodes themselves when they come out. The best way to stay in contact is through Twitter. So whether you follow me personally at TheWLinden on Twitter, or if you follow the podcast itself at Let's Hang Out Pod, the news will be there. The information will be there, and I will do everything I can to keep you guys informed when things are changing, when episodes are coming up, when stuff is posted, when we have guests, if we have specific topics we're going to be talking about, all that stuff. I will try to let you guys know as soon as possible. So when it comes to guests, when we have a guest on the show, that could be anybody. I'm not going into this expecting that the show is going to pick up celebrities or athletes or things like that. You know, I don't expect that. This is a personal project being projected out to hopefully an audience that'll resonate with, you know? Maybe it's something where you listen to it and you connect on a personal level with whatever topic is going on at the time. And the next episode you connect again, and on and on. And eventually you start thinking to yourself, man, that'd be kind of cool to be on this show. You're the person I want on the show. You're the person that I would want to have here on the show, talking about whatever topic you want to bring. That's the guideline for this show. I'm going to try to come into it with some topic. I may introduce a guest and we may talk about something, but I really want the conversation to be driven by the guest. I want you guys to come in here. I want you, the listeners, to bring whatever you want to talk about, as long as it's appropriate, obviously. I don't want to go into X-rated topics on here, because I really do want to keep this kind of open to everybody, and that really pushes it into a category that is not open to everybody and not something I really want to battle with. with censorship and things like that. So we'll keep it within reason. But if you're listening and you want to come on the show and talk about life things, stresses you're having at work, and you just want to vent and get it out and see if other people relate to you, have other people talk about it. You can even test the waters before you come on the show by using the Twitter handle, the Let's Hang Out podcast, at Let's Hang Out Pod, or hopefully we can get the hashtag going to make it a regular usage, hashtag Let's Hang Out Pod, and throw a topic out there. Maybe it's something I'll bring to the table and we'll throw out here and talk about. Maybe I'll even give my perspective to start and see if we can stir the topic a little bit. And maybe the episodes cycle back around. I don't want this to end up as a show that just gets kind of pigeonholed into social topics and stresses, and it's just, I don't want it to go into one specific category right out of the gate. I want it to be very open format, and I want it to be something that can evolve over time. Something that as people come in, we change how the episode rolls, the topics adjust, the stories adjust. Maybe the guest involvement changes too, because somebody comes on and they start talking about it, the next guest comes on and they go on to re-talk about that same topic, and then down the line we have everybody who was just talking about this one topic here. You know, it's a great platform to just be yourself. And that's what I want. You know, I want this to be different. I want it to be something you can listen to whenever you want. And maybe the episode is great for you. Maybe the episode doesn't quite relate to you. But eventually you find one that does. Eventually you can go through the listings and say, hey, that sounds like something I'd want to listen to. That's the goal. That's where I want to be. So talking about podcasting, and I had mentioned earlier that it's kind of a dream of mine to be able to do this. There's a bit of a backstory. So, growing up, I'm a 90s kid. I was born in the late 80s and grew up in the 90s. So talk radio was a big thing. And not your NPR news and crap like that. Actual talk radio. Hosts having guests on there talking about whatever. Late night shows like Loveline and afternoon shows on the rock radio, pop radio, things like that, where they're just hanging out with a guest. And we hear those little snippets throughout the hour, the 2-hour, 3-hour show. Things like that. That was something I wanted to do. I wanted to be one of those guys. I really wanted to go into radio for a long time. When I got to high school, my focus shifted a bit because I realized I was really good with architectural engineering, engineering systems, electronics, mechanics, woodworking, things like that. So that's where I focused. But the dream was always to eventually try to be a radio host, because it just seemed like such a cool job. As things have moved on, obviously, radio's become less and less of a thing. It's still very much there. I'm not saying that it's gone, that there's no more radio, there's no more talk radio. I'm just saying that it's evolved, like many things in our lives has over the years. Radio, hosting, things like that has changed. Not necessarily the format, but how it's done and where it's done. And with the introduction and the birth of podcasting, that's blown up. We now have everyday people who are able to put out a show, grow their following, and eventually end up doing exactly what I'm trying to do. And just enjoy casual podcasting. They can talk about whatever kind of topics they want to. They can focus on things they like, things their guests like. They have different guests on their show. You know, it's a big goal. It's a big dream to chase. But that's something that I've taught my kids to do. Something I wanted them to understand is that sometimes you just gotta chase the dream. It may seem impossible, and it may be a very big struggle, but taking the time to put in the work and to plan and be patient. Sometimes chasing that dream takes you a little bit longer to get started than you'd like. But never letting that dream go is the biggest thing I want them to understand. And hopefully them listening to this later on. Because they will. They'll listen to this. If I tell them, hey, my show's on Spotify, I guarantee they're going to look for it. which is awesome. I mean, it would be so cool to hear my kids talking about my podcast with their friends and such. You know, I'll probably be the center of a couple jokes here and there, but it's fine. It's part of the sacrifice you make and part of the gamble you take, putting yourself out on any medium, whether it be streaming, whether it be podcasting, radio, television, whatever. You kind of put yourself out there and risk comments being made, jokes being made, etc. The goal is to look past those. So hopefully by doing this, my kids understand that it is absolutely okay to have a dream, to chase it, and to get there in whatever time it takes. I want this to be a show that everybody can enjoy and look back on as a listener, as a fan, as a supporter if you're one that's helping me out with this. I'd love for this to be the show that you look back on and you think to yourself, man, that was a fun start. That was such a different show back then, and it is so different now, and I am unbelievably proud of where it became. And sometimes my English isn't so good. I've been speaking it my whole life. Words roll, thoughts roll, I think far faster than I speak, so sometimes the sentences get meshed together. But you know, maybe you look back at this show and you really do think back to where it was when it started, where you were at the beginning of this, what you were listening to. If you were a guest, you know, things we talked about and how it felt on the show to begin with versus coming back a second or third or fourth time or however many times you come back. Now, I have one guest lined up right now. My buddy, Mig Train, the real Mig Train. He's coming on here using his gamer tag as his identity because that's the options that you guys have nowadays. You know, I'm coming out here as myself. And I'm excited to have Mig Train on here because that's another dad that I've resonated with over the years. We've been gaming buddies for almost a decade now, and easily one of the most down-to-earth people I've ever met. One of the coolest guys I've ever met. One of the most dad of dads I've ever met, which is the coolest thing ever. And I'm excited to have him on here and just kind of just shoot the shit with everybody. We're coming in here. We did a kind of a mock episode a few weeks back. We were just hanging out, and I was sharing the idea with him about the podcast, and we were just talking. And at the end of it, he goes, "We just did a whole episode, didn't we?" And then we just kind of laughed at it for a second, like, yeah, that's exactly what I want this to be. You know, we were just hanging out playing games. So I'm excited to have him on here. I think that he is going to be one of the best regular guests we have on here if he continues to make regular appearances. And I hope that other people enjoy coming on here and want to come back more. The more people I have wanting to come into the show, the better, because it's going to keep content flowing for everybody, topics flowing for everybody, and who knows, maybe we get a network going of different guests, different regulars who help out, and maybe they'll start interacting with each other and we come up with some crazy topics. The possibilities are limitless, and that's one of the coolest things to think about. And it really makes that dream chasing feel so much more valuable. It makes it feel like it's something that if I truly chase this and put my effort into it, just like I do with my fundraising, just like I do with my video game streaming, when I really put the effort in there, I feel like I put out some pretty good stuff. I haven't been able to put a whole lot of effort in recently on a lot of things because of health issues and such, which will probably end up being an episode on its own. I'm not going to bore you guys with that now. But having that and knowing that the possibilities are out there really makes me feel like something awesome can happen if I just keep chasing this. Now, this is a short episode. It's a shorter one. It's the first one. Again, working through everything, working the kinks out, getting back into the role of host, and editor, and blah, blah, blah. Getting to see all of the gears working again, getting to see my microphone wave meter up here makes me so happy because I haven't done this in such a long time. So I know my microphone's working. I see the waves coming up, so I know that's working. I see my transcriber on the side here. taking down all my notes from the episode, which is great. Hopefully I can get that to work for guests too, which would make note-taking so much easier. But it's exciting. This is very exciting for me. And I hope you guys understand that it's something, the first episode or two will probably be a little bit of stumbling over our toes here, and walking before we really run. So bear with me, bear with the show. Things will change, things will adjust and get better. Format will obviously improve, things will improve with editing, quality, etc. It's been a while for me to do this, so if you're listening to this and it's not quite the best quality, I apologize, but thank you for hanging out and listening. So let's test this out. Let's wrap things up here. A good 20-minute episode sounds pretty good, roughly 20 minutes. So if you listen to the whole thing, thank you so much for hanging out. This is about the format we're looking for, 20 to 30 minutes. So if this works for you, awesome. A little bit of time out of your day, just hanging out and just talking, having fun. If this is something where it's not quite enough and you guys want more, tell me. Tell me. Get on Twitter, tag me, tag the podcast. Again, at Let's Hang Out Pod. If you guys have a topic, you guys have something you want to talk about, hashtag Let's Hang Out Pod. Tag the podcast as well, whatever methods you can. And as things start popping up, as we start seeing activity with topics and things, we will try to make some of that happen. And we'll get some fun stuff going here for you guys. You guys drive the show, not me. I just kind of keep things rolling because I have to. You could throw ideas out there, but if ideas aren't being put into an episode and produced, then it's just not happening. It's a team project, and I want you guys to be my teammates through this. Again, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you guys. I will see you in the next episode with our first guest, the real Mig Train. No idea what we're talking about just yet. We're going to let things happen just the way the podcast is designed, and we'll see what happens. We'll see where it goes. So thank you guys. Have a great afternoon. Have a great day whenever you're listening to this. Great morning, evening, night. If you're working overnights, get your coffee, get your energy drink. But I will catch you guys on the next episode.